fact, we have gone through so much kind of emotional abuse and trauma these past 4 years that I think the whole nation is kind of left wondering, how do we process this? It's like the mother finally stood up to the abusive, drunken, drug-addicted, white trash father. Excuse me, Whiskey Tango. Sorry, Facebook. I don't want to offend your little algorithm, Facebook.
Let's just say a crew garbage.
A crew garbage in the trailer park. The a crew garbage from the trailer park has been served the Order of Protection, our National Order of Protection, and exiled to Florida, soon to be a jail cell in one of any number of federal holding facilities as a flight risk, I think. How are you processing this today, my friend?
Well, I noticed a picture on the news this morning of Ivanka, which hopefully you'll be able to put up for our guests.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I was really touched this morning.
There she is. Is she crying?
She is crying, and I think she was listening to Biden's acceptance speech. But then again, she may have been at Andrews Air Force Base watching her father as he boarded the 747 to Miami.
Yeah, sans pardon.
Yes. Isn't that interesting? And of course, if you watch Rachel, you will understand Cipolloni's logic behind that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. It was impossible. Yeah. I mean, and the goodbye speech was one of the most ghastly and disjointed, unscripted pieces of political bullshit I've ever witnessed in my entire life.
I didn't see it, so Seth, tell me about it. Seriously.
Yeah, first of all, the guy looks what Twitter is referring to as unwell. The former president looked unwell this morning as he did his speech, which I will summarize sounding very much like what you would expect a retiring mob boss before he goes to prison would sound like. Well, anyway, bye. See ya. Good knowing you. We did great things here. We whacked Louis the Lip. That was an accomplishment. We did the Lufthansa heist. Never before has a heist that big been done in U.S. history. We built a wall so those filthy Mexicans couldn't come in the fucking country. We almost got away with turning this into a dictatorship. Anyway, see ya. That's basically the speech.
Interesting. So it wasn't as long as anticipated?
It was kind of like a 5-minute talk.
Seth, I haven't seen in the news, and we're going to talk about this. I haven't seen in the news any pictures of the crowd.
No, as a matter of fact, that was fascinating because the cameras were in front of the crowd and to the side of the front row at a very strange angle. There were no pictures of the crowd size.
Isn't that interesting?
No, it's entirely predictable.
Okay.
No, it's absolutely predictable. It was one of the most ghastly displays of political cowardice and embarrassment I've ever seen in my life. It was an absurdity.
This is very interesting because what we're watching, Seth, now, and it's even before Biden was inaugurated, is the rewriting of history by the media.
Yeah.
What you leave out. Trump's life has become a third-page story and eventually will be on the obituary columns if we're lucky.
the national reconciliation that we're after the joy of this moment and the relief of this moment kind of leaves us, the national reconciliation that we're going to necessarily have to have about the criminality and the uncovering of the criminality in a nonpartisan way is going to be that which drags Donald Trump back into, our national consciousness, kind of as this unwelcome, drunken guest at Thanksgiving that everybody's afraid is going to come and, stick his fingers in the pie and smoke
shoot up the trailer.
Shoot up the trailer. The inauguration was stolen by this woman right here.
Oh, was she amazing?
Amanda Gorman.
Oh,
Amanda Gorman. And she was a demonstration of everything that is right in this country. And it was almost as if Joe Biden was saying, hey, America, this is what we really look like. This is the real America. It's filled with all sorts of different colored people who bring their diversity to the table, and the dystopic, ghastly, mean-spirited nature of the idiots walking through the Capitol is what's wrong with the country and what we're growing past. And I don't think there's any way that you can see this through any other lens than that. It seems to me like Joe Biden is giving us all a look back at the real America that was dancing in the streets after Trump's loss.
You know what else is obvious? Is that you can take the best speech writers in the United States and have them compose your material. You put a poet on stage, and this is something I've noticed with Dave Morrison, who I think is fabulous, absolutely fabulous, not only intelligent, but musical, and just gets it in spades. And that's why they save it for last, because everything that a poet can come up with is so much better than any speechwriter can.
Yeah, it was kind of Maya Angelou-esque, wasn't it?
Yes, it was superb, and her look and her delivery, the confidence, that's why they save it for last, Seth.
Funny, I was tinkering last night. I was putting my thoughts down on paper. I came up with this, and I wonder if I might, run it by you guys. You got a second for me, Jackie boy?
Sure.
Today marks the end of the normalization of hate, of calling stupidity disruption, of selling our national treasure to our enemies, of the codification of unthinkably mean-spirited policies, of our national humiliation on the world stage, of denying science and destroying the planet, of emotional abuse and the gaslighting of millions, of the normalization of sexual abuse, rape, and pedophilia by the president and his friends, of helplessness of the people cleaved from their voice, of phony evangelicalism, of disrespect for that which is noble and the adoration of that which is repugnant, of turning a blind eye to character, of the gaudy Cheeto faux rococo that infected our national aesthetic. Today marks the beginning of reconciliation, but also of punishment. Now we must begin to uncover the criminality. And after it's all been seen, and we've quenched our thirst on the life force of Trumpist movement, we've drained every last ounce of their energy, then and only then will we hoist the rotting corpse of Trumpism on the battlement of our national consciousness. We must also hang it around the necks of each and every one of those who stood with him. The stench of it, a scarlet letter T, forever warning anyone who would try to resurrect the vampire of authoritarianism that eventually we will drive a stake through their hearts as well. If there is an understanding that is demanded of us, it is that the understanding of those who stormed our Capitol are in reality a failed cult filled with bloated versions of Adam Lanza. Let me start that again. We live in America. If there is an understanding that is demanded of us, it is the understanding that those who storm the Capitol are in reality a failed cult filled with bloated versions of Adam Lanza, Eric Harris, and Dylan Klebold, who now comprise the vast majority of the ghastly obscenities party, the GOP. We no longer live in an America we knew before this mistake of history. We live in an America where the tree of liberty reminds us with falling leaves that if we're not going to water it with the blood of seditionists, we should at least fertilize it with their shit and piss as we righteously kneel on their throats, lest they rise again.
Holy shit. That just reminds me once again, Seth, of why I adore you. I think if you're relatively intelligent, that you tend to find friends who will give you an inferiority complex on one level or another, whether it's art, whether it's visual, musical, or whether it's pure poetry and intelligence. And that's yet another reminder for me of the inferiority complex is the only way to learn, because you have exposed yourself to something that in some manner, way or form, is more superior than your ability.
Well, they used to say, that you don't get better playing with people who are less good than you in basketball or football or whatever.
Tennis.
Tennis. We each have our own. Everybody has their own genius, and it should be our life's mission to be able to uncover that which we do well, and try to improve that we don't do well. And I kind of thought to myself, what is it that And when you're putting together a piece like that, you're kind of thinking, well, there's a whole list of ghastly occurrences that have happened that I could put in the beginning of that. I'm going to put it up on the show page.
As a matter of fact, what I would do is I'd videotape yourself. You were sitting a little too far forward. Sit where you are now. Run the video and do it again, and just put it up as a standalone video, because it is beautifully, beautifully written, Seth. And I'm glad that you read it in context of poetry and words and communication. But I am, and anyone who isn't awed by that is not paying attention.
Well, and it focuses on what we have to get past, and it's a warning rather than a celebration. And that, yes. and in that I feel regret.
So what you're saying here is, when we were talking about the fact that history is going to be rewritten really quickly, led by the Republicans, because they have to, at the same time that it's being rewritten, and it's already started this morning by the coverage of Trump leaving.
Right.
We're going to be fighting that tendency with the reemergence of all the indictments and problems, which are Rachel enumerated last night. What he is facing in his life, it is unbelievable. And I'm not just talking lawsuits, everything. Melania is going to ditch the fuckhead. That's going to happen almost immediately. Can you imagine when that entourage, that poor excuse for a subfile of the human race, arrives, gets off the plane, and finally ends up in Mar-a-Lago with all these people that hated each other from the beginning, the infighting, the screaming when Trump no longer has the megaphone? It's going to get so ugly. I wouldn't be surprised tonight if there's some kind of a domestic called the police at Mar-a-Lago. It is going to get so, and everybody's fighting over his money, or should I say his debt, of not to have to share his debt
Yeah.
because he has no money. It's all going to go to lawyers. And the question
Now, now that they're, busy trying to, I don't know, what are they doing today? What are they splitting up the grift of the Trump administration, counting the shekels, and then charting a course for the next grandiose idea? What kind of title can he come up with himself next?
I think it's either that or they are taking separate planes to Moscow.
Dude, at a certain point, we are going to put we're late, by the way, to put a poll on the viewer page. How long until Trump is indicted, and by who?
And
he's a citizen today, buddy. Starting 2 hours and 15 minutes ago, he is able to be arrested. And I got to tell you, us focusing on, you and I, Seth and Jack, are going to have a problem. And the problem is, this is an interregnum, so to speak. And we don't really know where the land lays. There's no daily outrage that we can talk about. Now we get actual governance.
Two words, Seth: flight risk.
Yeah. He is 100% a flight risk.
Yep. So wherever he goes, he's going to stay there unless somehow some judge can be paid off to buy him an ankle bracelet.
Not going to happen. And how about the pathetic appearance of the congressional Republicans and Mike Pence today at the inauguration? Mike and Mother, at the base of the steps, and then Doug and Kamala at the top or the middle of the steps looking down. The symbolism of it was just astonishing to me. This acknowledgement, not of the individual, Donald Trump and Mike Pence, but of the mental illness, the group and cultural mental illness that we now have to deal with in their absence. And
didn't you love Kamala's delivery? She was so happy. She lost the vice presidential race, basically, to Kamala Harris, and she is so excited.
You mean Amy Klobuchar?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, she was wonderful because you could feel the joy.
Yeah.
The absolute joy in her.
Yep.
Yeah, it was. And the fact that they did a shout out to the sergeant at arms, the acting sergeant at arms who had led them in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
That was huge. And then you have the real politics of it, where you have now a destroyed GOP, the Ghastly Obscenities Party, and you have a geriatric president. It's going to be a one-term guy, and we're in the honeymoon phase right now. As we speak, there are a stack about that thick of executive orders that are going to undo Trumpism with one fell swoop. Not a minute too soon. And then we get down to the business of real governance.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch Rachel last night?
I think. Remind me of the theme. Could it be politics?
Curling. So there was one moment where she announced that Trump was thinking of starting the Patriot Party, and the look on her face when she heard it was like, we have been working for 4 years just for this announcement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if there's anything that could possibly be less effective as a political force in the United States than the Republican Party tomorrow, it's a Republican Party cleaved in half by a patriot party. I mean, I was talking about starting the Lincoln Party here in Maine, right?
Well, they could be those two, Seth.
Right.
It could very well be those two. And it's great because the Patriot Party will have about a third of the voting bloc of Hispanics. I love it. So stupid in the news.
A far right political party in the United States, huh?
Yeah. So here's some of the stupid in the news. Let me blow that up for you. I just want to show you a couple of these because I really.
So, Jack, are these from this past week's protests by the far right groups? I disagree entirely with you. I'll tell you exactly who they're up against. They are up against the rest of us and common decency. To me, it feels like emotionally now, it feels like the way you deal with anybody that's been kicked out of a house, out of a dinner party at your house.
Right.
You continue on having a nice time and eating delicious foods.
Mm-hmm.
And they're outside wondering why they got kicked out. Well, it's because you ate with your hands and threw food, you fucking moron.
And then you went to the toilet and brought it back in a transparent cellophane bag to give to the host.
Like Borat, exactly. And
that was funny.
And you know, like, it's not up to us at the dinner party to teach you how to behave, you fucking animals. So what we're going to do is we're not going to invite you back to the next dinner party, and we're going to go ahead and have a good time and enjoy ourselves. So when you tell me what the Gravy Seals are up against, obscurity, no voice. They're up against being ignored and marginalized and having the knees of decent people on their throats so they can water the tree of liberty with their own shit and piss as they suffocate under the weight of justice and progress.
I love it, Seth.
Sorry.
I love great imagery, and that was a beautiful image which should be savored.
We don't have, I mean, now, you know, I understand there's people that are, you know, maybe we'll upload this show and people will watch it later. And really, you and I are just doing this show for ourselves because we've earned it, man. You know,
I agree.
You know, people are right now, people are doing what they should be doing. This has been 5 years in the making. That started with the ghastly morning when we all learned as we woke up that Donald Trump was going to be our president, and we all feared what could possibly happen. And those fears have been validated. You were right to feel that way.
It wasn't immediate. Huffington Post for a couple of months put Trump's campaign for president in the humor section until they realized it just wasn't that funny anymore.
Not that funny.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, my first interface with the empowerment of these mouth breathers was when there was a march against Donald Trump. And one of my former brother Masons, who is now no longer a Freemason, was threatening the organizer, who happened to be a teenage girl from Camden Hills Regional High School. And she's now a fabulous political activist, and I believe member of the bar, if I'm not mistaken, or she will be soon, Hannah Holt, one of the great kids from Camden Hills High School. Someone that fills me with as much hope for the future as my own children, or this wonderful a woman who spoke so eloquently this morning. I believe her name is Amanda Gorman, our National Youth Poet Laureate. And this guy, he did a very bad thing. He threatened her with, some of his biker Trumpist buddies. They were going to come down and meet her at the protest. Of course, they never showed up because they're cowards, and they're cowards because they are afraid of showing up to protest and express themselves verbally. So they need guns to express themselves. They're everything that you thought that these people were. The people that would throw trash on my front yard because of my Black Lives Matter signs and my Biden-Harris signs. The people who threw trash on my driveway again this morning because we inaugurated Biden today. Every time they throw trash, by the way, it is a moral victory for all of us. And I go out there and I gleefully laugh and pick it up as I see what this freaking loser has in his life, the miserable, small existence that this pathetic excuse for a human being, wrapped in his anger and his own stupidity and lack of ambition.
And the irony is that some of this trash are non-winning lottery tickets.
And you know what? It's like every single time he scratches a lottery ticket and rips it in half, it literally says, "You didn't win." You know another way of saying you didn't win? You're a loser.
It is. And you know something, Bubba? The American dream just isn't for you.
It's not. And the reason it's not for him is because he refuses to embrace it.
Yep.
The American dream is for people with vision. The American dream is for people that have ambition, that have an inclusive attitude, that understand the message of the Constitution. You know, the message of the Constitution, Jack, is that this is a living document that empowers us to be the best we can be. It doesn't guarantee that we're going to be the best that we can be. That's on us.
That was beautifully stated in a couple of the speeches this morning.
It was
particularly by the poet. And there was one line that was just perfect.
Yeah. I mean, if there was ever a morning of, or I should say a day of hopefulness, today is that day. And, there are people around the country right now. The streets are kind of empty outside. Everybody is watching network news and soaking in this wonderful, happy event. And once again, I am hit with a little bit of sadness that so many Americans, 400,000 of us, and Justice Ginsburg, that went to my wife's high school, or that my father-in-law's high school, Madison, with Bernie Sanders, those people from the neighborhood, they never got to see this. They knew it was going to happen, but she never got to see Trump lose.
I think that if you had parked yourself on a mountain in the United States somewhere and just listened, you would hear the collective sigh of humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I was thinking, maybe one day in the future, you and I, or collectively or separately or whatever, we're going to end up back in Europe. And the people in Europe are going to ask us, they're so quick, some of them, to insult Americans. they're so angry with Americans in some sense, and so spiteful in some sense. There's a cultural need to regard us as what you referred to, the French thinking of us as the big baby. And the statement that I'm sure we're going to get is, well, yeah, but you're now diminished on the world stage.
Big time.
And my answer to that is actually no. We've never been more important for the world than we are right now, because unlike your Constitution, our Constitution came through the existential crisis, by the way, that I said it would 5 years ago. Our Constitution proved itself to be a resilient document capable of sustaining its most extreme tests.
That is true on a national level. I don't think it's true on an international level, because what Trump has done, he's almost proved to the rest of the world that the United States is as bad as they think it is. Look at the number.
But it's
look at the. I'm sorry. On a national level, absolutely. Internationally, I question whether the United States will ever have the moral authority again to lead the world.
So I guess that's the question now that we are interested in. What does America do on the world stage to make a defining statement of how we will lead the world technologically into the future?
It's not technological.
And
let's forget that. Let's think moral, high ground.
They can't be divorced from each other.
They can't, but they're separate things. Okay. We always prided ourselves that we had the moral high ground. Vietnam ruined a lot of that. Iraq ruined a lot of that. Okay. So from a foreign perspective, their view of Americans are being self-indulgent, overgrown babies was reinforced decade after decade. Okay. And now Trump has spent 4 years reinforcing that imagery.
And what they witnessed today changes that.
Nationally. Nationally.
No, I got to disagree. Internationally as well.
I don't think so.
Well,
I think
see the evidence of that moving forward, because it's been all of 2 hours and 30 minutes. So it's kind of impossible for us to say what world opinion about us will be.
It never stopped us from saying what we thought it was. Okay.
Oh, gee, it's 2 hours. You're going to make a bold prediction? Sure.
Absolutely. So yes, it's too early to tell yet. And keep this in mind, what has been blatantly illustrated for the rest of the world is that America, although it pulled itself out of this downward spiral, for the moment, is still comprised of a huge number of fascists.
Yeah, Mussolini-esque fascists.
Yes, no, in fact, they're not. They're not Mussolini-esque. Mussolini and a philosopher by the name of Gentile once described what fascism was, and Americans, of course, have no idea what it is. It is the belief that corporations and industry are more important than individuals. End of story. If you want to describe totalitarianism, if you want to describe plutocracy, anything else you want to describe, that's not part of the Italian definition of fascism.
No, right. But of course, fascism cannot exist without the comorbidities of authoritarianism.
That's true.
Yeah. So, it doesn't exactly exist in a bubble. Sure, the trains ran on time, but the trains ran on time to march the Jews off to the ovens.
Right.
So,
yep.
That's what happened.
Exactly.
At any rate, we find ourselves now in a tremendous moment of hope and a resurrection of this country. And I think what we're proving to the world, since we're talking about that, and since today's show was supposed to be about language, is that the word for today, the word that maybe we'll describe today, is resiliency. That
I agree.
That we're a infinitely resilient entity, and that the good news is that the forces of good in this country, the forces that Mike Pompeo described as multiculturalism, in one of the most naked attempts to seize the mantle of white racist dog whistle politics in America. That was pure political currency. That wasn't anything other than cowardly, crass opportunism.
Well, you notice his latest quote, which is multiculturalism is not what America is.
Yeah, that is exactly what America is.
Yeah, I know.
That's what America is. This young woman on the stage this morning and the African American and Asian American woman who is our vice president, it's not a mistake. Obama wasn't an aberration. This is the way it is going to be. Get used to it.
So, Seth, what I'm saying here is, you know how animals are very skittish around toddlers? Why? It's because toddlers are unpredictable in their movements and behavior.
Yeah.
Now, this is the world right now. Yes, we have pulled this out of our ass. At the same time, they are in the presence of a well-armed, extremely powerful toddler. And it's going to take them a long time to feel comfortable what they consider to be an unpredictable toddler. Okay, let's read this.
It's Patrick that says, fuck the rest of the world. We are incredibly flawed. We also came out of the storm. Our governmental system help us. It is not hard to run a government when everyone looks, thinks, and acts so much alike. America does the dirty work of the world, always have, and God willing will continue. Pompeo. I think maybe you should burp when you say Pompeo. Burp or fart. Pompeo is an evil fuck.
Well, first of all, if you cannot think globally, it's impossible to you to think that America is the great melting pot of the world. I'm sorry, those things go together. If you're a nationalist, a flag-waving nationalist, you will never understand that the world is going global. I'm sorry.
Absolutely couldn't possibly have found another wonderful avenue of exploration myself. I'm so glad you mentioned that. The idea of what it is to be an American. And you know, it's funny, Jack. Doesn't it feel to you like we just cut a cancer out? A festering cancer that was poisoning our system with infection and pus and misery. And this infection caused us to be blind and to forget what it is that this country really is. It is a melting pot. Exactly, Jack. It is a melting pot. You are 100% right. We have forgotten that from our national lexicon, from our national nomenclature. And that has to be part of the conversation. And if you don't like it, you're going to suffer.
Oh,
we're going to hold our knees on your throat.
I agree. And you are just a speed bump in progress. But I think it's very important, Seth, we have to say, we're talking about America all the time. We're not the only country that's trying to figure this shit out. We are not the only country that's a work in progress. Let's take the medals off for a second and say, A lot of countries have figured it out and do it much fucking better than we do. And I offer you Scandinavia. Okay. They have problems. It's a work in progress. Do they deal with it better than we do? Yes. Sweden has maybe 10% of the population that are screaming Nazis. Okay. They have the same problems we do, but they're working it out too. It's not just us. It's the whole world is trying to.
I would certainly, and I would certainly submit for the purposes of the conversation that the comparisons between us and anyone else are kind of unfair in just this following way, that we are a country that does not have a native homogeneous population that has a shared cultural history like Sweden does.
That's right.
And when you go to Sweden, you adore that cultural history. You immerse yourself in that cultural history. You want to become part of that cultural history. You eat the foods and you go to the beaches and you look at the people and you learn how to speak the language and the foods and the air and the land. They all lend itself to that same wonderfully Swedish experience. And there are differences between, Malmo and points north. Of course, there are regional differences, but it's not like the regional differences that we experience here in our 11 nations that make up the United States.
Seth, so let me interrupt you with one thing.
Please.
We think we've got a problem with this. You talk about a fucking problem. Look at Sweden, who up to 30 years ago was the most homogeneous country in the world and then got invaded by immigration. So you think we've got a problem? We pride ourselves of being the melting pot, and we have people breaking windows in the Capitol. This is a country that never had a reputation. As a matter of fact, exactly the opposite, of having no integration. So the fact that they could deal with it as well as they have,
it's mind-boggling.
And we haven't been able to.
And don't you feel like when you go there, don't you feel that there's a kind of national kindness? That in the best of circumstances, not the Ragara and others, that are in gangs, but the good and decent people. That there's an innate kindness in them about this.
It's not kindness. Innate kindness is when you're bicycling somewhere out in Iowa and in the middle of nowhere, and you stop and there's a house, a split level, just out in the middle of nowhere, and a guy's mowing his lawn. He turns it off and comes over and says, "Where are you from?" You say, "I'm from New York." He says, "You want something to eat?"
Yeah.
That's the Midwest United States.
Yeah.
The Swedish kindness is that a majority of people accept the fact that no one should flaunt it or dominate another person. It's not kindness. It's an ethos that the collective good is more important than the individual. It's not kindness.
Yeah.
That is something that a country like the United States is going to have a long time being able to emulate.
It's funny you should mention that. I was remembering two separate things. When I was a little boy, I might have been 12 or 13 years old. So not a little boy. The Yankees were in the playoffs, and my grandfather was an official with the city of New York, and he was able to get me tickets. So my dad and I went, and they were playing the Kansas City Royals. I think this is 1977. So I'm 12. And one thing, there was a blended crowd there. There were Royals fans there as well. And it was the first time that I had encountered what you're talking about. The hardworking, milk-fed decency and the kindness of people that weren't from New York. And
I know.
Jack, I you don't watch professional sports, so you don't know this. The people in Kansas are known for their kindness and courtesy to others, and the welcoming nature with which they compete. And that's why it's so gratifying for me that they got this quarterback who's kind of the best quarterback in the NFL, named Patrick Mahomes. And I was watching the Chiefs on play in the divisional series the other day, and there was a moment when a opposing player made a play and was taken off the field for an injury, I think. And the public address official said, "Let's hear it for this guy." He was from the other team.
Mm-hmm.
And the crowd joined in and cheered him off the field. That's the America without a Trump banner in front of its front yard. Those are the same people that would cheer a black man who got injured on their field, but politically have a Trump sign in their front yard. We can win those people back because it's within them.
I agree. Now, I'm hitchhiking in 1960 around the country with my brother. We have our backpacks and our guitars because we make money sometimes singing and playing guitar. A cop stops in Sioux City, Iowa. We were there for 12 hours, can't get a ride. He says, "What do you guys do?" I said, "We're hitchhiking out to California." He says, "Oh, really? Yeah. Need a place to sleep?" We said, "Yeah, that'd be great," because it was getting late in the day. He takes us down to the jail, gives us a cell. We sleep there. And then we get up in the next morning and it's in town, some in Sioux City, I guess. We go into a diner. We order breakfast. We have no money. I mean, nothing. We order breakfast, or very little. We order breakfast and we go out to pay. And the guy said, "The guy who left 15 minutes ago paid for your breakfast."
Wow.
Okay. And I'm thinking, holy shit. And I have a true soft spot for these folks. And every time I refer to them as the areas we fly over, I feel a twinge of guilt because I know what the potential is.
Yeah. Yeah. But, it's interesting because those areas that we fly over are only separated from us physically. And of course, really, because of modern technology, we have no real need to go to Kansas for anything. The only way we interface with those people is electronically.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, because our traditions and ways of thinking are becoming more commonplace in the national language, in the emotional language of the country, it will necessarily become easier to have conversations with these people. Them having, some of them having just experienced a moral defeat.
Mm-hmm.
The defeat of Trumpism and the revealing of what Donald Trump actually is a very important emotional process for this country, I think, in terms of us being able to talk with each other again. And of course, the common decency of a Joe Biden, who, this morning I said, in every sense, we have replaced the worst of America with the best of America. And somebody said, "Well, I'll agree with you about it being the worst of America. I'm not sure about the best of America." I really disagree. I think that someone doesn't have to be a West Point graduate or a captain of industry to be the best of what this country has to offer. But if you think of the struggles that Joe Biden has had and how his moral compass guides him to do the right thing in perpetuity, it's just what he is. How much more could you possibly ask for in a leader than a guy who is known for his common decency. It's almost as if we paid for him with Donald Trump.
Mhm.
Like we paid a price, like we had to sacrifice something.
I think we paid after the fact for Obama.
I agree. But, you know, if you look at the numbers of registered Republicans versus the numbers of Black and brown people and registered Democrats, they have just seen their demographic apocalypse. But not only that, they're about to see their electoral apocalypse as well.
I agree.
Because these numbers are going to continue to be one-sided in favor of the Democrats. And of course, as I have argued, there needs to be some sort of leveling force that keeps the Democratic Party within due bounds.
And what we've been witnessing, Seth, is a violent, desperate rear guard action.
You tell them, Jack.
For exactly that reason. They will stoop to any level to try to cover their asses as they're retreating. And that's the last 4 years. And now the floodgates are going to open. Now, if you're not running, and you know what's going to be fun for us to watch, you and I, Seth, and the rest of our friends.
What's that?
Is the Republicans trying to distance themselves from Trumpism. It is going to be hilarious. And I mean Fox News. I mean, absolutely everybody. These senators are going to, it's going to be one of the funniest things to watch.
And then as the news of his bad action or his the revelations about what he did and who he is, as those things come out, then you're going to hear that, you're going to see the pearl clutching and the, oh my God, I had no ideas coming around. And,
yes,
Kevin McCarthy in the Capitol Rotunda giving gifts to Biden and Harris as they go through this spirit of bipartisanship bullshit that they're, and we're supposed to gloss over the fact that Kevin McCarthy questions the legitimacy of Biden's election in that very same chamber, not more than 2 weeks ago, as people were storming the Capitol. I'm sorry, we got to remember that.
Yeah, we do. And all the pictures that were taken with Donald Trump, every perp, every scumbag, every grifter had his picture taken. Every Republican senator was proud to have his picture taken with Trump. You're going to watch people deleting shit on the internet so fast.
You mean, are you meaning to say, Jack, that people's wall of credibility is no longer going to include the White House portrait with Trump?
I think the name of the wall will be changed.
You know what? I got a feeling that the theme of Donald Trump's next 6 months is going to be bite the My Pillow. So Jack, would you mind terribly if I reread that piece? And because Martha just tuned in and she didn't get a chance to hear it.
I think you really should, Martha, because this is genius. Stay exactly where you are.
I'm going to do it on a single cam, and then what we can do is we can cut it and upload it later and put it on the page.
Okay, because Martha, trust me, this was worthy of the Capitol steps this morning.
We want to make a statement of where we are. And I was tinkering last night, and nobody was watching the show because the inauguration is still ongoing, or at least the festivities are.
Do it again, Seth, for her, because it is brilliant. Okay.
I wanted to read it for Patrick too, because he's there.
Go for it.
Thanks, buddy. Today marks the end of the normalization of hate, of the calling of stupidity disruption, of the selling of our national treasure to our enemies, of the codification of unthinkably mean-spirited policies, of our national humiliation on the world stage, of denying science and destroying the planet, of emotional abuse and gaslighting of millions, of the normalization of sexual abuse, rape, and pedophilia by the president and his friends, of helplessness of the people cleaved from their voice, of phony evangelicalism, of disrespect for that which is noble and the adoration of that which is repugnant, of turning a blind eye to character, of the gaudy Cheeto faux rococo that infected our national aesthetic. Today marks the beginning of reconciliation, but also of punishment. Now we begin to uncover the criminality, and after it's all been seen and we've quenched our thirst on the life force of the Trumpist movement, and we've drained every last ounce of their energy, then and only then will we hoist the rotting corpse of Trumpism on the battlement of our national consciousness. We must also hang it around the necks of each and every one of those who stood with him. The stench of it, a scarlet letter T, forever warning anyone who would try to resurrect the vampire of authoritarianism, that eventually we will drive a stake through their hearts as well. If there is an understanding that is demanded of us, it is the understanding that those who stormed our Capitol are in reality a failed cult filled with bloated versions of Adam Lanza, Eric Harris, and Dylan Klebold, who now comprise the vast majority of the ghastly obscenities party, the new GOP. We no longer live in the America we knew before this mistake of history. We live in an America where the tree of liberty reminds us with falling leaves that if we are not going to water it with the blood of seditionists, we should at least fertilize it with their shit and piss as we righteously kneel on their throats, lest they rise again. And that is what I had to say to them.
This is the mission statement of the Seth and Jack Show. So, guys, let me know what you think of that, because I think it's brilliant. I'm so proud of Seth.
Well, I was plenty pissed off.
You think?
And the thing is, I wasn't really kind of thinking about, I wasn't thinking about the hopefulness of today's message. I'm kind of like, hey, we have an existential crisis here, and America is a good place. Martha says, fabulous. Thank you, Martha.
Yeah, it is. It really is, Seth.
Exactly the kind of validation that I need in my life.
You're starting to appreciate a technique that I used to use in meetings with agencies, creative groups, and everybody before we shoot a commercial, which is the enormous value of swear words if they're held back for a while.
Right.
It creates a kind of drama in a high pressure meeting that is just untoppable if you believe in that kind of drama when presenting.
Thanks, Mark.
That's great.
The idea that, and I deleted the last sentence after I said that we're going to fertilize the tree of liberty with the shit and piss of these people as we kneel on their throats, kind of as a shout out to people who have died in police through police brutality. Not just George Floyd, but anybody who has died the same way, suffocated that way. The symbolism of kneeling on a throat and suffocating it, I think, needs to be turned around. But the vision of, that the shit and piss fertilizing the tree of liberty, I wrote at the end, and I deleted it, but I wrote, and we only have ourselves to blame for the smell. It's like we have this process by which we ensure our own liberty, and we're still living with these people. Martha says better as drama. Better as drama as opposed to comedy. I agree. It's a dramatic time. It's a dramatic time. It's like it feels like there's oxygen again. You know, it feels like we're able to move on. I mean, professionally, I feel more hopeful. I received a great job offer yesterday. That would be me working from home and doing what I do, and being involved. I won't talk about it. I don't want to jinx it, but it's a great opportunity for me to continue doing this and to work from home. So I'm
Is it
very
is it is it politically related at all? Or?
no, it's business and politics related. So really, the best of both worlds.
Great.
You know, and I spend a lot of time at the intersection of business and politics in this state, and I'm still able to do Kineo Concepts as an ongoing concern, because I think that's going to be critical to building resiliency into housing, not only in the state but on a national basis. Is you know, the concepts that we were putting forward. You know, and so Martha, you know, I got to tell you, Martha, I'm right there with you. I started, I think in 2015 or 2016, I was like 236. I'm like 270 now. I gained like 20 pounds, 24 pounds. Yeah. Jack, on the other hand, hasn't gained an ounce.
But then again, I haven't gotten a job offer in 20 years.
You haven't needed a job offer in 20 years.
I haven't needed a job offer
You
in
haven't
20
needed
years.
a job offer. I said, hey, Jack, let's do a show. That's the last job offer you got.
That's exactly right. No money. So Seth,
let's keep doing this. It's fun.
I tell you, how about that stock market, huh?
Yeah, you mean the one that went up 150 points as soon as the plane flew up in the ground? Oh, Gevalt, come on, people!
This is the
Obama did a much better job with the stock market aggregate than Trump did. So
of course he did, although it is flying. But the only reason it's flying is anticipation of Trump leaving. Do you think Trump will take credit for the market being so high when he left?
I got to tell you, I don't think anybody's going to give a fuck about that. I really don't. I really don't think anybody's going to care.
I think the important thing to tell everyone is that name, in the spirit of this rewriting of history, this revisionism, that everyone should avoid mentioning his name at all costs in the future. We want him to just disappear because that hurts him more than anything else could.
Sure, obscurity. Yeah.
Yes. Let's call him
Madonna. The same question. You remember in the 80s, Madonna, they said to Madonna, hey, you know, what's the worst thing that could happen to you? She said, nobody talking about me.
Yeah. And so we'll either refer to individual number one, or we will refer to his whatever his prison number becomes.
I'm going to miss, here's a list of things that I'm going to miss.
Oh, please.
I'm going to miss the Twitter feed called Angry Staffer. Angry White House staffer. I think it's Patrick that said, like Lord Voldemort. Yeah. He will not, when Martha says he will not be named. I'm going to miss Angry
Staffer. I love that.
I'm also going to miss Jim Acosta outside the White House telling me what's going on inside the White House. I'm going to miss Jim Acosta saying, White House sources say this fucking guy's losing his shit. I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss all of the people that intentionally got under his skin by leaking things that were like should have never been leaked. The whole news cycle for the past 4 years was stuff that any competent White House would never allow to get out in the public eye. Are you fucking kidding me?
I think you've pointed to something very important. And that is we're going to miss the level of absolute incompetence on every level of not only the White House, the cabinet. I mean, it is the fuck-ups. The fact that they telegraph every mistake 2 days in advance.
Right.
It is just
And, and
Oh,
and you know, it's just like all we're left with is the mean spiritedness of Kevin McCarthy and Turtle Mitch McConnell, Moscow Mitch, and Kevin McCarthy. These poor bastards who carried water for this erstwhile Nazi wannabe fascist dictator. They revealed exactly who that part of the GOP, the ghastly obscenities party is, and now
so
stuck with this rotting corpse. Let me ask you this: just seriously consider this question. Not only Jack, but Martha, Patrick, Fiona, anybody who's watching. How else could we have gotten rid of the GOP if not for this way?
I agree.
Think about it. What have we actually given up?
A Clinton victory would not have done it.
Without question, we would have a resurgent GOP. This is the medicine that we had to take to get rid of this toxic, white only mess.
Right. It was a laxative, Seth.
It was a laxative. We have shit out all the toxins that have been built up in our system. And if there was ever a word to describe the GOP, Jack, is turgid not it?
Let me ask you a question. Is the Patriot Party, which I truly see as an entity, going to
Jack, can we pray? Can we just pray really quickly?
We are.
Please, Lord Jesus, please let the Patriot Party become a thing. Please continue to answer our prayers with the bounty that you have blessed us with. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for Donald Trump and Mike Pence. Especially thank you for Karen Pence. She was fabulous. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for the Patriot Party. Please, oh, please let it happen. Amen.
Now, I ask you, do they take on the mantle of the party of American values, family values?
Okay, so YouTube user who I'm guessing is Patrick or Fiona, but I will tell you in a second.
Yes.
YouTube user says the decades it is Patrick, and then Jeff says January 6th provided the catalyst to mobilize any sane American against the ghastly obscenities party, not ghastly old party. Ghastly and old is what Jack and I are. Ghastly obscenities are what the GOP is.
Yes, judicial appointments.
Decades of judicial appointments. However, let me just say this, Patrick, and you tell me. I am giddy, Martha. I'm so giddy. Aren't you giddy, though, Martha? Aren't you giddy? Aren't you happy to? Oh my God! Yeah, toke it up, baby.
Oh.
Now, Jack, if it weren't for the overtly conservative federal judiciary that we have now, how would the legislature in the United States get licensed to become more liberal? If you have a liberal executive and legislative branch, you already have the counterweight to that, which is a conservative judiciary.
So you ask me how that could happen?
No.
One word.
How could the statement of thesis? I don't think that you could get away with a Democratic left-wing executive branch and a solidly Democratic executive branch in perpetuity if it weren't for a conservative judiciary, which we happen to have. I think that means signed, sealed, and delivered for Democrats / Lincoln Party coalition in perpetuity. Do you see the logic of that? And do you disagree with that?
No, I both agree and disagree, and mostly agree, but you would ask the question, how do you get the rest of Congress to be think more liberal? And I had one word: shame.
Yeah, I mean, so here we have to think of it chronologically, though, because we have a narrow House majority and a split Senate. And of course, if you're a Democrat, you have to wonder, of the seats that are still left, what the Democrats. I think the Democrats extend their majority in the Senate, and I think the Democrats recapture a bigger majority in the House, which will be a heavier lift.
Let me change my shame is not the right word. I meant to say, sometimes when you say, you want to say something, it comes out differently. It's the guy sits with his wife at breakfast and all of a sudden he blurts out, "You fucking cunt, you ruined my life."
Jessica said,
and it's typical. He says, I didn't meant to say that. I meant to say pass the butter. Okay.
Yeah.
So I said shame. I didn't mean that. I meant public execution.
Yes. You're right when you say that. But I also was you were just telling a very old and funny joke, and you showed me the inauguration. You remember last night when you sent me the inauguration invitation? You remember that? Did you see the size of the Union bug in the corner of that fucking thing?
Yahtzee, yeah.
Jesus Christ, that thing was huge. I mean, it's the biggest Union bug. It's like that big in the corner of the invitation. I don't think my invitation here.
Now that he's gone, let's talk about Seth.
Check it out. Look, that is my invitation to the Clinton Gore, and there's no Union bug of any size on it. It's just a.
Does anyone else find this totally uninteresting? Because I certainly do. So let me know if we're sort of in the same accord here.
That's not particularly unusual that you would find it uninteresting, Jack, because I constantly have to explain to you why things are interesting, and then you find them interesting.
Explain to me, Seth.
I don't know.
I don't think explain is the right word.
I don't know. At any rate, the Union bug on the invitation to the inauguration was fucking huge, and that sends a message. That sends a message that organized labor as a voting bloc is going to be very important in 2022 and 2024. So I think just of things that you can look for. One of the signals of the Biden inauguration is, well, get ready. We've lost unions in this country, and I'm from Scranton. I'm a hardworking guy. I'm a blue collar guy, and unions are part of what makes America great. So I just pay attention to that signal from the Biden administration.
Did you see our last comment from the user?
Who
is that, Seth?
I don't. You know what? I'm afraid. I don't want you to go to his house with a gun.
Yeah, well, we're not going to.
Of course, it's Patrick.
We're not going to. Patrick. Oh, Patrick friended me on Facebook. I was very honored.
Well, of course he has to friend you on Facebook. He's got to figure out where to send the invitation for dinner.
And bring 5 friends.
There was nobody there, dude. There was like 30 people there.
That, I got to tell you, Seth, that is going to go down in history.
Do you think the Mooch brought 5 friends?
This is like the poor kid that has a birthday party and nobody comes, which I always felt was one of the greatest tragedies of American society. Okay.
We can't even begin to talk about it.
No, it's awful.
That's a hurtful thing.
It's awful. Okay. Anywhere in the country would support Republicans. And this is, to answer your question, nobody, the thing about it is that.
You're in trouble. You're in trouble.
Oh, I think I'm sure, Martha, I'm sure I accepted it, but I have almost 2,000 friends most of whom have unfriended me,
Oh,
but they're
you doing?
still on the list.
Are we doing the whole Martha, I didn't notice your friend request because I'm so popular?
Martha, can I direct you toward my lawyer? He's Jewish. His name is Seth Silverton, and he's going to present my case. Seth, you're on.
If there was ever anybody that knew how and why to befriend Jews, it's you, Churchill.
The why is the part that really sort of sticks in my.
Now, Jeff, if you go on the show on YouTube, you can comment and have your name show up in comments. If you go on the show on Facebook doesn't have the right to do that. So you can.
I see. I got it. I see. It's me, Jeff. Hi,
Yeah.
Jeff. How are things in the South today? They're setting off fireworks.
Yeah, Jeff, what's going on in North Carolina? Are there any people being dragged from the back of pickup trucks?
And Jeff, those fireworks you see, that's really an RPG, okay? Going towards your house.
I told you last night. I ever tell you the joke about the, I'm like, you know what? Telling you a joke on the air is so hard because you go out of your way not to laugh. You only laugh at the spontaneous stuff. Yeah, that's you right there. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to tell you off the air.
Well, let's hear if it's funny, and then I'll give you my reaction.
Because I can't, you're not going to laugh. Okay. So there's an experiment. There's an experiment in Switzerland. Okay. There's an experiment in Switzerland, and they have a physicist, a mathematician, and a union stagehand in this controlled experiment. And they put them each in an identical room with 3 rubber balls. The room is a perfect cube with a light on the top. And they give them the 3 rubber balls with no instructions, and they close the door. An hour later, they open the door, and the physicist has balanced each ball in a straight line in the center of the room on top of each other, so the balls are perched perfectly. So the scientists write that down. They take notes. They take pictures. They go to the mathematician's room. This is why. They go to the mathematician's room. Lady in the front row. Is this thing on? They go to the mathematician's room, and the balls are spaced equidistant from each other and the wall in a perfect line, each perfectly measured out. They go to the union stagehand's room. They open the door. One ball is in the corner. The other ball is cracked in half, and the third ball is missing entirely. They said, "What the fuck is this?" He says, "That ball's okay. That one came off the truck like that. Third ball, I don't know about. I never saw any third ball. Is it on the invoice?" You know what? Watching you try not to laugh.
Yes. It's,
Great.
having worked with Teamsters and Local One all my life in New York, I get the humor.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, that was told to me by a SUNY at Purchase graduate union stagehand.
I love it. I'll be right back, Seth. See if you can hold down the fort.
I can hold down the fort. So open to chats or questions in the Facebook page. If you want, you can go over to the Facebook page and shoot a question or comment or a direction that you would like to see the show go. I'll read it from the Facebook page and we can go on. Just kind of not sure how. Oh, hold on a sec. Patrick. Cowbell for Patrick. There you go, Patrick. No show is complete without a little cowbell. And we're going to do all sorts of shtick that other, morning zoo, pathetic, the lowest level of entertainment. The morning zoo radio show is really the lowest level of entertainment in the United States. It is what Dave Chappelle would call right next to being Dancing with the Stars. Dancing with the Stars morning zoo talk show radios, and I would say dinner theater in Boca Raton with Larry Storch and Robert Goulet in Man of La Mancha. I think those would be kind of the lower rung of show business. That, and as of this morning, we have to add the new form of entertainment in Florida, an evening with Donald Trump. Can you imagine an evening with Donald Trump at the Palm Beach Holiday Inn in the Coconut Room, in the Coconut Grove Room at the Palm Beach Holiday Inn, an evening with Donald Trump? I wonder what Donald Trump is going to be. Yeah, Jeff, you have to hit the live, go on live. There's video and then there's live. So if you go onto the live tab, you'll see it up. I wonder what Donald Trump's next chapter is going to be. I mean, this morning when the plane was taking off, Jake Tapper referred to it as a plane load of grievances heading down south. How could that possibly have been spontaneous? That Jake Tapper called it a plane load of grievances as it took off. Jack, were you watching CNN this morning when Jake Tapper referred to Donald Trump and the plane taking off? He says the Trump family takes off in this plane load of grievances.
You know what I thought I'd do, Seth? We haven't started doing product placement yet. So I want to do a product placement. This is Gojo. This is what I use not only instead of soap for washing my hands, but I wash my hair with it, everything. If you work in a shop all day, you work on motorcycles and stuff, this is the shit you want to use. Okay, so this is product placement. We've got to figure out how to fund this show, Seth.
This episode of the Seth and Jack Show, sponsored by Gojo. Yes for hands, no for shampoo. Jack, you're gonna grow an arm out of the side of your fucking head if you use that. Mm-hmm. What is it? I mean, it's the most harsh soap you can get.
That's why I have no hair.
Holy shit! How long have you been using Gojo as shampoo?
Oh, a couple of years at least. I don't want to be a sucker to consumerism, Seth. I don't want to walk in there and spend all sorts of time going through 20 or 30 different soaps, trying to figure out what the best one is. So if I can find a product that can address more than one need, I will always use it.
We should do the show using Gojo t-shirts. You know, it's a cool label. It's exceedingly masculine. Although you are at a point in your life where you just ooze mature masculinity, don't you, Jack?
No, what I ooze is I don't give a fuck. That's what I ooze, Seth.
And isn't that synonymous with mature masculinity?
Absolutely. You don't question your masculinity. No. You don't question your femininity.
I don't care. Do you care?
No. I don't question
shampooing with Gojo.
And you don't question the limited intelligence of your friends. It just ceases to become.
Will you make up your mind
about what?
The intelligence of your friends.
Oh no, no, you don't question. You just sort of go with the flow. You let them talk as long as they want. You know what I mean? You just let them go on, and then if there's something you have to say, maybe you try to interrupt them.
You know? And
then occasionally they come out with something that's so brilliant that you realize why they're your friends.
You know, you're absolutely right, because not about my own brilliance, but about the fact that if I let you go a little bit more, I can discover that you shampoo all these pearls of comedic potential. Jack, you shampoo with Gojo. That's the most hardcore masculine thing I've ever seen.
Let me do another product placement. Hang on a sec.
I mean, shampooing with Gojo? That's the greatest thing I've ever heard. My brother just called. Got to take this. You know what? That is exactly the kind of thing that you could have kept to yourself, Jeff, and nobody would have noticed that you were gone. Jeff tells us, you ready for this? All right, we'll wait for Jack to get the headset back on.
You're going to learn a lot about Jack you wish you hadn't.
Okay.
And we're talking about simplicity in your life when you have no social life at all. You really like being by yourself. So how do you wash your clothes? Here it is. Okay, this is Tide. Tide, Simply Clean and Fresh. And I started using this because what I do, particularly in the spring and summer, I work outside a lot. So I always have dirty clothes. So I throw them into the shower when I take a shower at the end of the day. And not only do the clothes end up smelling really good, because this stuff really is wonderful, but so do I. So that's the way I use the combined. The other product that I want to recommend for people who are getting older is this baby, and that's NyQuil Cold and Flu. If you think you're getting a bit of a cold or something and you want to say bye-bye on the choo-choo for 12 hours, I guarantee you take this stuff when you go to bed and you are gone. It is the medicinal hammer of medications. And these are all products. I can't get them in the same shop, but these are all products that I depend on to keep my life simple and stable. Look at that. And healthy. And I just wanted to do a little product placement here for you, Seth.
I mean, you can't write. You can't write this shit. I got an idea. Yeah. Why don't you wash your clothes in NyQuil and take Tide to put you out at night?
I tried that. It didn't work as well. The clothes were sticky, and I kept waking up.
You sleep in the clothes too?
No, I don't.
All right, good.
That I don't do. But, keep in mind, Seth, when you get older, you don't have social interactions with people. It's all either on the internet.
Are you kidding me? You and I spend our life out on the bench in the middle of Camden if we can.
Doesn't come under the heading of social interaction, Seth. That comes under the heading of white wasp from Princeton and Brooklyn Jew really fucking pissed off at the world. And that's changing now, Seth. You and I are going to be smiling on that bench.
Yeah. We're going to be looking for the Trumpers as they, and they're going to hide themselves now, Jack. They're not going to be wearing the hat or the T-shirt or the scarf or the pom-pom hat or the flag and with the bumper stickers and with the white supremacist organization patches on their quasi-military jackets. And they're not going to be wearing their bulletproof vests. And they're not going to be doing all of the things that hey, there goes a Trumper. Better hide the children. No, we're going to have to search for them now. So we're going to be sitting on the bench in Camden. And Jack, we're going to be performing interviews.
Yes. As a matter of fact, that's a good idea. When the spring comes, let's do the show from the bench. We can do it with cameras. With phones, Seth, right?
Great idea. We're going to need the producer, by the way, to follow people around with the release form so that you and I don't end up destitute under a torrent of civil suits that will certainly accompany anybody that we talk to in the street that we put on the air, because that is not going to go well for them. Let me just tell you that right now.
That's true. And particularly in Camden, Seth, where everyone is entitled to everything.
Holy shit, dude. Holy shit. Do we have to go? Why don't we just go after entitlement next?
We've already done a lot of that, but I see it like this. I see it that joining us on the bench is a lawyer who makes sure we don't do things that are suable.
Who's your pick for
that's
show attorney?
That's going to be tough.
Who's your pick for show attorney?
Well, Rudy is probably not going to be part of the New York bar anymore. Is that correct?
Oh, bye, Rudy.
Hey, Rudy.
Bye, Rudy. Yeah, he was like a smart fucking guy. Yeah, Rick,
I tell you, Seth, seriously.
seriously, White House, bro.
Seth, I tell you, seriously, if you looked at the pictures of him years ago with his comb overs, his one remaining hair that grew out of his ear, that guy literally lost his shit when he lost his last hair to come over. He's insane. He always was insane.
You know,
vain.
It when he put on the total drag outfit and was on camera with his buddy Donald Trump and this kind of conservative meets the libertine drag show that he and Donnie did way back in New York in the late 80s or the 90s. When he did that, people questioned his sanity. And I thought to myself, no, it's probably just a kink. It's probably just Rudy being Rudy. Turns out it wasn't Rudy being Rudy. That motherfucker is nuts.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these people that gravitated to Trump were dropped on their heads as babies purposely to try to, it was a behavior modification technique.
Should I share with the audience how I celebrated Inauguration Day today?
Tell me.
With calling the chief?
Yes, sure.
Okay. I have been receiving a collection of garbage thrown on my lawn from the same individual that drives by my house, who is a Trump supporter who objects to Black Lives Matter and Biden signs, right? There's Augie yelling at a dog that's being walked. Sorry about that, everybody. Hey! Anyway, I've been getting garbage from this guy's truck, primarily napkins and coffee cups from Dunkin' Donuts. And he wrote a hate message on 2 of the cups about Black people using bad words. And I kept those cups, and they also happen to have the tops that, collected DNA evidence, as well as a series of fingerprints and other garbage. I have a whole collection. As a celebration today, because today is inaugural day, this was too much for the beat up Ford F-150 driving racist scumbag who drives past my house on a daily basis. Fortunately for the good guys, there is a time stamp on each and every cup of coffee that this mouth-breathing scumbag throws in my front yard. And the timestamp is always the same. And it's always the same order, which I assure you, dear viewers, is quite unusual.
That's what Augie heard.
They're coming to get him now.
Yeah.
So I filed a police report about 8 months ago. I filed another police report in December. I put out cameras that can't catch it. I've tried basically everything. This morning I called the Dunkin' Donuts and I said, hey, just curious, do you guys have security cameras? Yes, we do have security cameras. And ma'am, are they pointed at the registers? Yes, they are pointed at the register. And since I'm in a celebratory mood, I called our local constabulary and I insisted on speaking with the chief. And the chief said, that's funny. I hadn't heard about this. Yeah, I'll go down there and talk with her and find out who it is. And we will rectify that situation. And so now, in celebration of Biden's ascension to the highest office in the land, I get to ruin the life of someone who has been tormenting me, who also happens to be a Trumper. Lo, these many months.
Seth, 2021 has turned into antithetical to 2020. It is turning into the year of gifts.
It is Christmas morning, my man.
Oh, it is on crack. I mean, it's they just keep on coming.
It's like you and I woke up from our long national nightmare to discover
NyQuil.
NyQuil. We're gonna wake up. We're gonna hop in the shower with all of our dirty laundry and some Tide with Febreze after chugging NyQuil the night before. We're gonna wash our hair with Gojo, and the world is gonna be bright and clean and fresh scented again.
Isn't this the way they do product placement, Seth? They just
Nope.
show.
No, dude.
Somebody wants a cowbell, Seth. Thank you.
Christmas, it's Hanukkah. It's Christmas and Hanukkah.
It is everything.
Yeah, see, if you write in all caps, it has to put it on two lines there. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, here's something interesting about one of the viewers, Jack.
Tell me.
Jeff, get this. Jeff shoots us a message. It says YouTube user, okay? And here's what he types in the chat. My brother's on the phone. I've got to get this. Here it is. Brother just called. I got to take this. Now we get this. I'm back. This is Jeff. Jeff from North Carolina. First time, long time. Why did you have to share that with us that your brother called? I'm sitting here watching the comments. Oh, gotcha. But regardless of why, he says, now here's where the guilt comes in. Here's where the Jewish guilt comes in. His mother-in-law just died. Okay.
Oh, Seth, do you look stupid and
No, I don't.
mean-spirited? You're fucking mean-spirited. You can't sympathize or empathize with people. You're just a horrible human being.
He brings in the hammer of guilt at the end. That is the most Jewish sequence I've ever seen on the internet. Hold on. Hold on, my brother's on the phone. I gotta go. Why are you telling us that? Okay, I'm back. Why are you telling us that? His mother-in-law died. Oh. Oh,
God is great. Seth.
I see. Our condolences.
I guess
on the passing. I know, poor Seth is exactly right. Actually, Martha, I am enjoying today like nobody's business. It's the greatest day ever. And you know what? Martha? It's just that the gifts are going to keep on coming. This show is going to stop being fucking Trump CSI, and it's going to start turning into now we're at liberty to make fun of shit. And we're going to make fun of shit. You know why? Because we're not existentially threatened anymore, or at least not that we know of.
And that includes you, dear viewer.
Yes, it does include us. Now, oh, look, even more guilt. This has to be Jeff. Thank you for that. Thank you for the condolences, you fuck. That's what that's all. Thank you. Thank you. Can we get back to not paying attention to me now? Can you stop it? We've got 5 viewers and I'm alienating one of them.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, it's bad. It's Jeff. He's Mishpurka. We can do it.
That's true. And guys, our dear audience, just think of the Seth and Jack show as a Trump franchise. Okay, it's probably never going to go anywhere, but Donald enjoyed it.
Donald did enjoy it. I'm not sure Donald's enjoying himself now. We were wondering, Jack, while you were gone, I was wondering what the next chapter in Donald's life is going to be. Okay.
Well,
and I just got to tell you, the LaMarche contingent on the show is expanding rapidly. There is a Bob LaMarche who is celebrating his anniversary today to a Martha LaMarche. Happy anniversary, Martha and Bob. More cowbell for you. Cowbell for your anniversary. So while you were gone, Jack, we were musing about what the Donald's next venture could possibly be.
It is going to be an announcement about a new party, the Patriot Party, including their own network, because Twitter is so gone. I think it's going to be those two things. That's Melania leaving for good. Another number of things. We just don't know in what order they're going to happen. So we know what's going to happen. We just know in the order. Only possibly belied by a jet going to Russia. That's the one thing we can't necessarily.
Well, here are the links that Drudge has above the fold, so to speak. I'll read them to you. He's gone. Disgraced Donald flees to Florida. Skips inauguration in war-torn capital. Unwell appearance. Nation exhausted. The Don revokes lobbying ban after promising to drain the swamp. Extends clemency to sports gamblers and rappers. Secret pardons for self and family.
Was that a question mark?
That is a question mark from Mediaite. Can Trump really issue secret pardons for himself and his family? Outgoing President Donald Trump and his family were not among the 143 11th hour pardons issued shortly after midnight, leading many to fret that he could still issue secret pardons, pocket pardons, that only come to light when the recipients are charged with crimes.
You're joking. Is there
Lawrence O'Donnell says, don't trust the list. Trump doesn't have to reveal the names of anyone he pardons. He can issue secret pardons. Trump can pardon himself and his family and keep that secret until they're charged with federal crimes.
Oh my God, it's like Secret Santa.
Like a Secret Santa. That's right. So that's one of the potential, unfortunately, one of the potential outcomes of a Trump last-minute pardon spree. Supporters will find life different at extreme corners of the web. QAnon believers grapple with doubt, spin new theories. We all got played.
Oh, I like this.
Have you seen the bitching and moaning about the QAnons? You saw that video of the woman saying she felt stupid.
Wonder why.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what these people do. They feel stupid because, newsflash, they're stupid. Older, polarized, financially insecure USA. Best inaugural address I've ever heard, says Wallace, who is Chris Wallace, praises Biden. So the Fox News talking heads are praising the inaugural address by Biden, which means that Seth and Jack should be infuriated by that, because if Chris Wallace thinks it's okay, it didn't crack enough heads for our liking.
True, and yet we're going to see, as I said before, Seth, we're going to see so much of this.
Apparently,
it's going to be everywhere. I think we've overstayed our welcome.
You mean on the public stage today?
Yeah, the sun is starting to set here.
I know, but we went on post our usual time. We're at 105, 106 minutes right now. I agree with you. We have plenty to do, so we'll get ready for our Friday show. And for our Friday show, more comedy and opportunities. We don't know what the fuck we're going to talk about. I think there could be some indictments coming soon. I think the state of New York has sent troopers down to Florida, and they're secretly camped out at the Palm Beach Holiday Inn, poolside, sipping Mai Tais, giddily anticipating their prize, while the Putin G5 circles Palm Beach Airport, waiting to pick Donald up and fly him not to Moscow, but to a meat packing plant in Ukraine, where he will be ground up into sausage. But the plant manager will complain because the fat content is way too high.
Thank you for those parting words. They were gorgeous, Seth. Thank you.
You're welcome, my friend. You're welcome. All right. Well, more to come on Friday, Jack. Do you have anything else you want to get in?
No, I just wanted to remind people that Tide smells great on your clothes and on your body.
Oh, God.
I spent my life, Seth, people saying to me, could you just turn it a little bit more so we can see more of the label? Can you imagine spending your life like that?
No.
So empathize.
That's
empathize.
What I know. That this is Jeff, right? Is this what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying that if I die, don't laugh on the air. Okay?
Dude, you're the camera operator. You're not the props guy. The props guy is telling us that his brother's mother-in-law died.
Yeah, but I'm telling him that he has to spin it because the agency account executive got a complaint from the client, which was transferred to the assistant director, which was transferred to me, and then transferred to Jeff, who unfortunately...
Why can't the fucking client get off his ass and send somebody to the shoot that they're paying for?
Let me get back to you on that.
Exactly. That's my point.
But anyway,
they're lazy.
Seth,
in
the next show, try to be a little more sensitive to our guests. That's the only thing that I'm asking. I love what you're doing, but I really would like to see a little more empathy, sympathy, and compassion. Just a leaving thought. Just a thought. Don't feel guilty, Seth.
Fuck you.
See you later, bud.
Bye, buddy.